So today we are going to look at again a few more on the first lesson. We were looking at the basic concepts of ICT, and under that we first look at data life cycle, which means when we have data conversion into information, usually we have three parts. We have look at those three parts first. That means basically data creation and data management, and also like removing obsolete data, right? So any data collection or any application, these three cycles or three stages can be seen. Some example we have seen with the weather data set. Usually they look at weather for last 10 years time, and they used to predict future weather patterns. And then once they have done it, they may remove, like when you say last 10 years, after 1 year time, you have to remove last 1 year's data from the system. So that means data has a life cycle. So that's the first thing that we have discussed. Second thing that we have discussed is the difference between the data and information. And we look at these unprocessed items. If you take letters, words, symbols as it is, we can say this is as a data. But then if you arrange in a way that it's useful, or if you process it, then we'll get information. Data we divided as quantitative, that which means if you can represent numerically. And then qualitative, sometimes you cannot measure quantitatively, but if you use different characteristics or properties, then we said it's qualitative data. Then we look at the information and how information is actually transformed from input to the output. What will happen is in the middle, we have a process, right? And for example, if you take the example of calculating average marks of a class, so our input is marks of particular subject in the class, and the output will be the average marks. So when you know the individual marks of students, we can sum it up, we can find the total marks of the students, and then we can divide by the number of students. So simply that's the process, right? Then we look at the characteristics of quality information. Now, when you say a quality information, when you want to make decisions based on the information should be in good quality. So that determines by different characteristics like relevance, which says, okay, information should be relevant. Timeliness, information should be updated and available in timely manner, right? When you say tomorrow's weather, we need it by at least today. Otherwise, it won't be that useful. Third one, accuracy. Information should be always accurate, especially when you want to diagnose a patient. Patient's test results should be accurate. Otherwise, it affects the diagnosis as well. Then completeness. All information must be considered when making conclusions. Information should be complete. I told you, like if you want to find average marks for a subject, you have to get the data about all the participants or all the students in the class. Then understandability. That means it should be clear and concise, which otherwise will not be that useful. And another thing that you remember, if you input garbage, you get the garbage as the output, right? So that's what we were discussed. And the next one we discuss is the golden rule. The term golden rule means the value of the information is very high when the time of creation of data, and it actually gradually degrades with the time. So when the time passes, the value of information decreases. So remember, whatever the information you are going to take it's very important when you get that information as soon as possible. Over the time, this value gradually decreases. Right, then we actually look at very interesting topic nowadays. We discuss the social media networks, the internet, and all these technology evolvement. It actually generates vast amount of data. So this figure actually shows you how many data, right, as rough estimate, will be connected to today's world. And for example, standard software cannot handle such complexity and it fails. So whenever data is huge, we call it big data. Collecting, storing, analyzing, sharing, update, and protecting the privacy of data, very difficult when it comes to big data. But it's very interesting topic and people actually working on this. The last part that we discussed last time, the need of the technology. We nowadays use technology to create data, to disseminate the data, to manage data and information, right? So first of all, the uses of information. We know information could be used to make decisions. Information could be used to make policy decisions. Information could be used for prediction, right? Now, this diagram, what we see is COVID patient increase in early 2021, right? And there was a rise after December 2020. You see the sharp increase is there. And then that is actually orange line. The black line shows how many of the patients currently being treated. Right. So what we can talk about this day? What we can talk about this day? We can talk about this planning, scheduling, and monitoring. And this planning should be to meet particular goal. So for example, in relation to the previous problem, we want to reduce the number of COVID patients, right? So that kind of importance is here we could use. Okay, so let's move on to today's topic. What I'm going to talk about today is slightly different from what we have done so far. Right now, we are going to look at how you can actually handle the data. What do you mean by handle? The data can be handled manually. Yes, Movinia, what do you think about data handling manually? What do you mean by that?
Handling through a computer.
Yes, handling through a computer. Amadara?
Handling data through people. After that, we are putting those things to the computer.
Okay, right. Now, first of all, we need to know what are the drawbacks of this traditional way of, managing data and information. So the problems we'll first identify. So let's route down the subtopic. We can say drawbacks of manual data processing. Now, if the data entering and everything is manual and you're using files and folders, then we can say this is manual data processing. Right. Okay. Now, for example, if you take your school, is it computer systems are they using? Are they using any manual systems?
Manual systems.
Mostly manual systems. Okay. Right. There are a couple of issues with that, which means when you handle data manually. Right. I have listed some of them here. Yes, drawbacks of manual data processing. Right, finished? It still uses the manual method of manipulating data in every day, right? In a school, for example, if you're using traditional paper-based system, mostly they are not going to handling it maximum the capacity. But if you can computerize all these school, libraries, hospital, then it is very easy, right? So that's, I said, shortcomings. Right. So let's list down some of them. Right. The first one we call data duplication.
Excuse me, sir.
Yep.
That means they are not using the computers, right?
Yes. Now this is manual system, meaning like not use of computers, like traditional way of file-based systems. You use books, for example.
Okay.
So usually manual means the traditional way of recording data. With the computers now, everything is digital. Now, simply I can show you like this. Let me show you a couple of examples just to illustrate the problem that this is the toy way to represent this. Now, for example, in this one, so you see that whatever the data that we have is only ABC, right? Then usually you might record in multiple places. The same thing we call data duplication. Now the problem is this is actually problem. Even in a computerized data, we will have this same problem, right? Let me show you another examples, right? So if you take this, for example, right, we will have the same information or same data appear in twice, right? Which is not very useful. We will call this is duplication of data duplication. Right. Can you think of a problem why data duplication is a problem?
It's hard to analyze.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes, let's say if you too much data, yes, you can hard to analyze. Yes, one problem. Let's say the same address appear in multiple places. What is the problem that it will generate? Data duplication.
Can't recognize the correct ones.
Okay, can't recognize. Okay. But isn't it like if the same data appear multiple times, it is waste of storage, right? Don't you think so? Same data appear multiple times. One problem is then takes too much space for same data appear multiple times. And how about when you want to change something? Let's say for some time you want to change your address or change your name. If the data duplicate is there, that means same information appear in multiple places, what happens? Yes, when you try to do this manually, it's very difficult. Let's say your address is written in multiple places in the school system, maybe in clubs, maybe in the teacher's attendance marking, like your name. If it is appear multiple different ways, then we cannot recognize the data items. Right? So the duplication is a problem. Okay, let's write down the problem with data duplication. Right? Data duplication. So what we discuss is that means the same data appear in different places. Now, what do you mean by different places? Like it may be different departments. The same person may report in multiple different ways. We call data duplication. Then next one is data inconsistency. Finished taking down?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you mean by inconsistent? You dress inconsistently. Inconsistency. What do you mean by that? Inconsistent. Sometimes things are inconsistent, not consistent. What do you mean by consistent then?
It's not matching, sir. Like
Inconsistent. Yeah. Similar. Sometimes like the way you dress, for example, if it is same or same style, maybe some you formally dress like this, or sometimes you might use a t-shirt and a denim, like you are consistent. But let's say sometimes you dress formal dress, sometimes t-shirt and denim, then we might say inconsistent. Now, for example, in data inconsistency, mean the same address of a person, if appears in multiple different ways in different places, then we can say data is inconsistent. Now, this happens because of data duplication sometimes. When let's say the person's address is appear multiple times, if let's say the address has changed, when you're changing, if you miss some of the duplicates, then data will be inconsistent, which means there might be two different addresses. Some places you have one address, another place you have another address, which actually difficult us to make decisions based on that data inconsistency, right? Okay. So this means same information may appear in different ways, right? The change of record, the address, records in only some places, which will create data inconsistency. Third one, data errors. What do you mean by erroneous data or data error?
The data is not correct.
Yes, exactly. Let's say we have a temperature measure equipment. When you check it, it won't give us the correct answer. So data errors. Or you check your weight using a scale, right? And whatever the weight is not correct, so we call data errors. Yes, what is the issue of data errors? What might happen?
Then we can't make correct decisions.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's say you are controlling your food habits by measuring the weight. And if your device gives you errors, what appears is not the correct one, then it affects your decisions, right? So remember that. I'm not going to elaborate, but I think you can understand. Right, next one. Human errors, right? Caused when entering data. Yes, any idea? What do you mean by human errors when entering data?
Missing letters.
Yes, missing letters. So sometimes they type your name incorrectly. What will happen? Cause a lot of issues, right? Sometimes you apply for national identity card and when they entering your name, they made a mistake. Terrible mistake. So remember, always humans tend to make mistakes, especially data entry, right? Here it's not computers actually, but then again, in manual systems, right? Especially when they enter the data, they make a lot of errors. Right, next one. Right, spending more time to search data. Can one of you elaborate? What do you mean by that?
We have to check the single file.
Exactly. So let's say if a file-based system and you are about to leave the school leavers came to take the school leaving certificates. Now, one thing is, office staff, they need to track where your file is. If it is a file and if you have a large number of cupboards, you can think that how much time you have to use to search a particular data. But when it comes to computers, it's very efficient. If you just type, it will give you the answer, right? I hope you are familiar with this idea. And the high cost. Any idea what do you mean by high cost here?
As a high cost is not coming under computer-based data processing.
Not really, it depends actually. Now in computer system, usually you have to spend a lot of money to set up the system, which means buying computers, buying internet out and so on. Then later you don't have to spend money on it. But manual system, always you need like a lot of space, which goes high cost. Like you need a room, physical rooms, you need people. Like if you have a computer and a software, you might need only one person to do everything. But if it is a traditional office, then you have to have several. We have to have several persons, which is high cost. So it is, as you said, Amandi, yes, it might go with the computer automated data processing as well, but this high cost is slightly different from cost or money you spend on computers. Right. The next one. Inefficient. Therefore, unable to provide better service to the customers. Finished?
Yes, sir.
And sometimes in some application, like in laboratories, right, and places with radiation, usually manual data collection is not recommended. Can you tell me why?
Because there can be a lot of human errors and waste of time compared to computer-based processing.
No, not really. Now my question was, so this manual data collection means the human involved in data collecting is not suitable in laboratories or places with radiations. That means sometimes some environments are not, suitable for humans to work with. Then manually collecting data is not going to work. We need, automated data collection. Right. Let's write down. I think I will explain. Manual data collection is not suitable in laboratories and when dealing with radiation. Right. It's a long list, but I mean, if you can at least remember a couple of them, like at least 3 or 4, depending on the question time, and that will be enough.
Sir?
Yep.
So data duplication means putting the same data twice or more, or
Yes,
putting
yes, yes, yes. Same
so
data.
here it is like same data appear in different places.
Yeah, I mean, like not necessarily in the same place. Like, let's say address information. So let's say student address can be recorded in the office. Like when you first to school, they keep a copy of it. And then the same address information with teachers, same information with maybe coaches, like if they like work for extracurricular activities, right? That means the same data, but it's appear in multiple different places. You can call it data duplication. Yes, as you said, it might happen in the single table as well, but majority you can see the same data appear in multiple different places, which we call data duplication.
So what is the drawback of that?
It wastes a lot of space. First one, same information, keeping the same thing, like let's say your address, keeping in the office, keeping in the teacher, keeping in the coaches is actually, you are wasting time and space.
So
And
then when
yeah,
automated data processing, it is only recorded in one place and everybody can just watch from that place.
exactly,
Is
exactly, exactly. This is exactly what we are going to do, talk about databases. I think Movinia has a good understanding. Like address we kept in one place, so that whenever some changes happen, you change only that place. If it is in multiple places, you have to change in multiple places. If you missed some place or if you make an error, then data will be inconsistent.
okay, sir.
Yep. I hope you got that. Good always it's asking questions, because that help even Movinia to understand. Right. Now let's look at automated data processing. Now, because of these various issues, automated data processing is quite common nowadays. Right. Any ideas, please? What do you mean by, yes, automated data processing?
Gathering and processing data through the computers.
Yes, yes. Basically, I'm going to say that, okay, we can use technology to store, process, and retrieve. We can use internet, we have used cloud-based systems, right? So all these different technologies can be used. So I'm going to list them, but I'm going to say, okay, uses technology to store, process, and retrieve. Uses technology to store, process, and retrieve Store and processing, retrieve data. That's the first one. What else? What do you see from previous slide?
Easy to make changes.
I didn't get you, Mavinia. Yes, what do you mean by that?
We can edit data easily.
Yes, you can edit data. So basically you can create, you can process, you can store, everything is easier. Right? And the data, more efficient. You can say more efficient data handling. That means when you want to change something, you change the place, it will appear in multiple different places. Next. Yes, compared to the previous technology, we need less more efficient data handling, less human interaction. And I told you, like some laboratory experiments, or you check that, you need like water and harmful radiation.
Lower cost.
Yes, low cost. Saves human lives in situations like bad weather, right? There are many advantages of automated data processing, but we discuss mainly we use technology tools to process and retrieve data. And then we have more efficient data handling, less human interaction, so the labor force can be reduced, and even it will actually save human lives in the different condition environment, like weather and then also radiation stuff, right? The next thing that I'm going to actually look at how the information and technology used in different domains, which actually we have discussed this in O levels as well. But let's see. Right. Let's move on to that. The next subtopic that we are going to discuss, right? Use of information available various domains. Yes, can you name some? Domains mean different fields. Right. Now, let's take one domain, education. Can you think of some education related applications of ICT?
E-learning.
Sorry?
E-learning.
Yes, e-learning. Electronic learning actually become very popular due to information available in various domains. Right? We can say e-learning, electronic learning, online education, recorded lectures.
So what's the difference between e-learning and online education?
Right. Few things we can look at it. Not, if you take the two, let me take an image and show you. Electronic learning, meaning use of electronic content, right? So e-learning allows student to interact with the teacher, like e-taxalab, right? But then when you say online, now this is online, like how we meet each other, it's online, like we have a conference software, we use Zoom. This is called online, right? It's actually gray, you cannot like separate out completely, but online meaning sometimes to say that live, it's live, mostly online education. Electronic learning, it could be offline as well. Got the point?
Also, offline means like we can get the study effects and do all this.
Exactly. You have like, e-taxala, for example, you have a recorded videos, you have quizzes, you have papers, it's not really online. But in this setting, like what we do right now, it's online education or online learning. Like it's basically through some software, we interact, students face to face. So that's called online education.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Right. Okay. The next one, recorded lectures or maybe education programs. Right. Second one, can you tell me like some application in health? how the technology is used in health.
Scanner.
Yes, you have different
Scanner.
scanners. Yes, especially in diagnosis stage, you can use different scanners. Yes, good point.
Virtual checkups.
Yes, virtual checkups. Right? Any other? Health, is that all? Right. Now, for example, remote surgeries. Have you seen remote surgeries, Amanda? Test case is a set of actions to find whether the particular feature in the software. So you will basically verify that particular feature implementation. This also includes specific variables or conditions which can be compared with expected and actual outcomes. So one of the things that we do in testing is we will come up with the expected value from, let's say, our output of a function, then actual value. And this should be documented, meaning you have to keep track of all the developments, right? So usually you can have documented these test cases as it is. Right, next thing that we need to discuss, two types of testing. White box testing, which means you check the internal implementation of the software. And black box testing means you check input and output. So later we will discuss there are different testing types. So some of this could be directly useful. Right. Now, when you talk about the software testing times, once you develop a piece of code at a small level, we call unit level, we can have unit testing. Usually this is white box testing. Then we will have integration testing, which means you combine individual program units and then they test them. So usually you have separate test team for this purpose. Again, you can use white box or black box, depends on the situation. Then third one, we talk about system evaluation. So we will test the whole system as a single unit. Again, test teams are used, and this time only the black box testing. And finally, yes, we will look at acceptance from the user who's going to use the system. Right, this is called acceptance testing. Right, so that's about the different types of testing that we have to discuss. Right. The next thing is to look at deployment. Once you finish the testing part, we are going to implement the system. This is called deployment. So let's write down today. We look at deployment process, or we can say software development, sorry, system deployment, right? So we will say, okay, deployment, sorry, we will say software deployment, software deployment. Yes, by the way, what do you mean by deployment, Nimisha? What do you mean by deployment here? Nimisha, what do you mean by deployment? Right, let's write down. Software deployment means software, sorry, deployment means making the software system available for use. So that means after finishing the testing part, we can make it used by the users. This process consists of several interrelated activities right. Next, we will look at deployment method. The first one we call parallel deployment. මේක අඳ ගන්න. අඳගෙන ඉවරලා කියන්නේ. අලිය ඉවරේ නම් කියන්න.
Hari sir.
We have done these things in earlier as well. Now, software deployment means we are going to implement a new system. But if you implement the new system while the old system in place, this is called parallel deployment. So we can say what this means. We are parallelly installing a new system while the old system is already in place. And if the new system is success, you can abandon the old system. However, some period you have to run both old system and new system, which might you have to spend a lot of money, right? And also like some data duplication tasks will be there, right? So this is called parallel deployment. So there are always advantages and disadvantages. Then we have second one, direct deployment. So in direct deployment, what happens? You completely ignore the old system and start with the new system. So it's something like this. We have old system. Right? We have old system. And we have new system. So here what will happen? In direct deployment, a new system operates after the old system. Right. Implementation is faster. This assumes that the new system is better than the old system. Right. Let's draw this, and once you finish, let me know. Right. Then the third one, is it well.
Hi, sir.
So in the phased implementation, so you step by step, you are going to take different phases, right? Now let me say we have this. I'm going to take a couple of tables. Now phase means it's something like this. So let's say you have a whole system, right? I'm going to fill it with some color. Let me see. Let's look at table design. Okay, shading, right? Let's say this is my old system. Then new system is like this. Right? So that means part of this is still old at this level. And then if you take this, right, you actually step by step, right, you are going to change to the old to new system, right? So at this level, this is new. This is new. This is new. This is new. So part by part, not like exactly sharp at that point, part of it. Part of the old system, we make it a new system. Part of the other one, make it a new system. You know, phase by phase, we'll make this old system to new system, right? So this side we have old system. To this side, we have new system. Right. So in phase deployment, the new system is implemented by phase. Next comes with the pilot implementation. Now in pilot implementation, what happens? Normally, only very small part, that means from the old system, is converted into new system. It's like this. This is like a direct, you completely start with the old system, then you go for new system. But phase means you take only a part of to a new system, part of the new system. This is pilot study, but when you're satisfied completely, you are going to change the other parts, right? Similar to the previous, but only part of it will consider for a given time. This is old system. This is new system. Old system. This is new system. So it will be like this. පොතේ අඳගෙන ඉවරනම් කියන්න.
Hi, sir.
So in pilot implementation, what happens? You select a small test group to implement the system. organization, right? So that means you are going to select a small group and you implement the new system there, and based on that, it will apply to the entire organization. It's called pilot deployment. This is called pilot implementation. Now we can talk about the separate maintenance phase of SDLC. Once the new system in operation, maintenance phase starts. During the maintenance, new software and hardware requirements implementation support, new feature request, and correcting any errors in the system, handling security issues. Are handled. So that is actually the maintenance phase. Now, deploy means we apply the developed systems. Now it's in operation. Then we need to maintain the system, which means we can accommodate new hardware, software requirements, documentation, feature request, and also you can correct any errors and also handling some security issues. So this is called maintenance. Right. Okay. Now with that, we can complete the last part, and that is 7.10. In 7.10, we can look at some, not the development of new software, we can look at the use of what is existing software. Right. So topic is new system with commercial off the shelf. Commercial off the shelf COTS packages, right? This is actually 7.8, right? Right. So let's look at advantages. Okay, let's first describe what the quality is, COT is. Right. We can say COTS products are packaged with ready-made hardware and software. Ready-made means already developed. This may reduce the cost of developing custom-made software. Previously, we discussed developing a new information system from the start. Now, commercial off the shelf or COTS means already available systems. The systems are more reliable than custom-based software, and this is validated by various independent organizations. Okay, since this is ready-made, it is used not only by one particular organization. It's actually used by many independent organizations. Right, advantages. We can have a 0.4. First advantage is the cost is low compared to custom software system. Yes, can be deployed quickly. You can implement quickly. Software tested by many independent organizations. Ability to test before purchasing. Right, disadvantage. So there are some disadvantages as well. First one, right? Not all the required features are available. Not all the features are available. Some features of the system may not be used at all. Need that's all. So පුතා ඉවරනම් කියන්නේ ඊට පස්සේ මම ආයෙ describe කරන්න. හරිද පුතේ ඉවරද?
හරි සර්.
ඒකට උදාහරණයක් කිව්වොත් අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් නිකන් Microsoft Office package. Office package. ඒ ගොඩාක් software අපිට නිකන් දෙනවා Microsoft Office කිව්වහම. Word තියෙනවා, Excel තියෙනවා, Access තියෙනවා, ඒවා custom made. හරි? එක්කෙනෙක් නෙවෙයි පාවිච්චි, ගොඩක් අය පාවිච්චි කරනවා. ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ සමහරට අපිට මේ ඔක්කොම ඕන වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So we don't need all the features. අතර cost එකත් අපිට අපි තනියම software එකක් හදන්නට වඩා අඩුයි. So we say advantages are cost is low compared to custom software development. And you can deploy quickly because, for example, Microsoft Office, you can buy and install. And this is tested by many organizations because Office is common package, anyone can install. And you can able to test before purchasing, not like a custom made software. You can use it. The other hand, the disadvantages are not all the features are available because sometimes we need like specific requirements. So those specific requirements may not covered by already existing packages. And some features may not be used at all, right? If you take Word, for example, we are not going to use all the commands available in Word, isn't it? And finally, we need additional cost for yearly renewal, right? Now, with that said, we finished the theory of grade 12. We completed all the theoretical parts and then the section, right? So I would like to start with some questions. Were you able to go through some of the existing questions, Puta? Putata වෙලාවක් තියුණාද බලන්න questions?
නෑ සර් කරේ නෑ.
Right, okay. Then we'll start with the first. I think we start with 2020. Do you have the paper 2020 with you?
20 නෑ සර්. 19 වෙනකම් විතරයි තියෙන්නේ.
Let me check whether I have the 20 paper. Okay, I think I have. මේ paper එක නෑ ඔයාගාවනේ.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe I will send this. This is the latest one and hope, yes, the last question is the one actually we need to discuss, right? Okay. Yes, can you see the paper? I will share the paper for the time being. Okay, maybe I will send you the paper. ධර්ම WhatsApp එකේ දැම්මා බලන්න ආවද කියලා. හරිද පුතේ?
නෑ සර්.
වැරදි account එකකටද මම ඒවල තියෙන්නේ? WhatsApp එකේ එන්න ඕනේ දැන්. දුවගේ number එක මොකක් කියලා තියෙන්නේ? වාගේ මේ profile එකේ picture එක මොකක්ද තියෙන්නේ? අර ඇඟිලි දෙකක් පේන්න තියෙන්නේ ඒක වාගේ නෙමෙයිද?
ඔව් සයින් ෆෝන් එක කනෙක්ට් වෙලා නැහැ.
හරි. දැන් හරිද? right. මම paper එකේ වුණා නමුත් මෙතනින් බලන්න පුළුවන්. right. So let's read it. අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලා බලමු මේක තේරුම් ගන්න. Let's try to understand first what this is. And then we will try to answer. The three-stage procedure for handling over a letter for registered post of a post office is follows. So there are three-stage right? Procedure, right? Okay. First of all, determining postage. First of all, we need to determine the postage. The customer hands over a letter to the registration counter. The letter is weighted and postage for 11 weight is read from a table. The postage is written on the letter by the counter and it is given to the customer. So that is determine postage. postage so that's the first phase. Second one is issuing stamps. Basically what happens there, it happens in the stamps counter. Customer hands over the letter with the postage written on the stamp counter with the amount of postage, and stamps for the postage and the letter are issued to the customer with any balance due to the stamps counter, right? Then final step is registering letter. We have registration counter and it accepts the letter and sticks the registered post label with a unique identification code to the letter, keeps the letter and issue a receipt with the sender and recipient information with the date and amount paid to the customer. Right. Okay, so here are some information. Right, now the question asks, using the standard symbols, draw the following context diagram and level 1 data flow diagram. Right, we have to have these two context diagram and level 1 data flow diagram. Right, so I will go back to theory first, just to remind you what we are supposed to do, right? System, like first of all, we have asked to have the interactions. We need to understand what data flows in between and with the system, right? So we have, first of all, we have some letter registration system, isn't it? And customer is there. So all the interactions we have to first identify, right, in this fashion with the system. So that's the first part. Okay, can you do that first? So this is the context diagram. I will show you another context diagram. Right, let me see whether we could find, yes. Another context diagram where we have a student and teacher interacting with the grading system. And then, yes, another one. Oh, that's all right. Okay. Right. So basically we have to identify the external entities, right? And the system, and then data interactions. What data flows from the system and what data flows from customer, right? So that's what we need to figure it out. Right, now can you tell me how many external entities are here? දැන් මේ කරන වැඩේදී කවුද සම්බන්ධ වෙන්නේ? අපේ post office එකේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ මේකට system එකක්. හරි? Some software systems for the letter registration. ඒතර ඒකත් එක්ක interact වෙන්නේ කවුද මේකෙදී externally?
Customer.
තව ඉන්නද වෙන කට්ටිය? කස්ටමර් ඇරෙන්න වෙන කවුරු හරි ඉන්නවද? නෑනේ. ඒක කස්ටමයි මේ පෝස්ට් ඔෆිස් එකේ තියෙන සිස්ටම් එක. ඒකට ඉතින් නමක් දෙන්න ඕන. ඔයා කැමති නමක් දෙන්න. මොන සිස්ටම් එක කියලාද අපිට කියන්න වෙන්නේ?
registration system.
Okay, කමන්නේ. මොකක් හරි. Registration system. Good. One side you have a customer, the other side you have a registration system. නේද? අදින්න ඒකද? So one side you have customer, the other side you have a registration system. Okay, sorry, not this one. Right? You have a registration system. So this is customer. Letter registration කියලා කියන්නේ. Letter registration system. ඔච්චරයි. නේද? ඊට පස්සේ බලන්න මොනවද handle වෙන data. අදින්න බලන්න තනියම. අnder මට එවන්න. So we have customer, right. පොතේ මුලින්ම මොකක්ද information යන්නේ කොහෙන් කොහාටද? customer ගෙන් registration system එකටද registration system එකෙන් customer? First one.
customer ගෙන්.
Okay, customer ගෙන් යනවා registration system එකට මොනවද යන්නේ?
later.
Yes, later. ඊට පස්සේ දෙවෙනි ඉන්ට්‍රැක්ෂන් එක මොකද වෙන්නේ? කාගෙන් කාගටද? Yes, letter එක තමයි. හරි. ඊට පස්සේ කොහෙන් කොහාට දෙන්නේ? right. දුව එහෙනම් මට එක ඇඳලා එවනවද?
Ah, sir.
ෆස්ට් ස්ටෙප් එකේ WhatsApp එකේ එවන්න ඊට පස්සේ අපි ඩිස්කස් කරමු උත්තරේ.